How are you feeling right now? Happy? Sad? Stressed? Inspired? Angry? Excited? Overwhelmed? Afraid? Joyful? According to Dr. Monique Giard, emotional intelligence is the ability to recognize our feelings and to respond appropriately in any given situation. Wouldn't you like to maintain a peaceful heart and peaceful mind despite everything happening in the world and in your life at the moment? Hello, I am Cynthia Hamilton. I'm a certified master teacher at Master Sha Dao Center in British Columbia. Welcome to a 30-minute introduction to emotional intelligence, key to true joy, happiness, and success, with Ximena Gavino, center leader at the Master Sha Dao Center in British Columbia, and Dr. Monique Giard, clinical counselor, EMDR therapist, and guest teacher this weekend. Dr. Monique has explained previously that we are experiencing an inordinate level of tension and stress due to the pandemic and other global events. We may not be aware that the way we respond to the stress levels may be an inappropriate trauma response triggered by the tension we live in now. We may not know how to deal with the level of tension, particularly if we have experienced any form of trauma in our life. Emotional intelligence workshops offer participants a psychological framework to understand our emotional response and experience of transformation in the Tao calligraphy healing field. Let us now welcome Ximena Gavino, center leader at the Master Sha Dao Center, which has a beautiful Tao calligraphy healing field, to talk about the groundbreaking workshop and what you will experience this weekend. Ximena Gavino. Oops. So sorry.
Unmute Ximena.
I have unmuted on my side.
Welcome, everyone. So it is my great honor to welcome you for the next 30 minutes. We wanted to spend time with you to help you understand what is emotional intelligence. How do we know if we have emotional intelligence? And how can we develop emotional intelligence? So those were the questions that prompted us to develop this workshop. And us is Dr. Monique Giard and myself. We work at the center, Master Sha Dao Healing Center in British Columbia. We work with clients who have chronic and very challenging conditions. They may have been sick for 20, 30 years, where they're high blood pressure, diabetes. Many times they have not one condition, but multiple conditions, right? And one of the things that we've discovered is that there's always an emotional component to it. In talking with Dr. Giard, what I learned is that there are 4 unhealthy responses that are based on trauma. And when someone isn't aware that they have, they're not aware that they're responding through their trauma, that's when things get complicated and challenging, especially relationships. So what I learned from Dr. Giard is if we're able to stay grounded, and I want to invite my colleagues to mute their line because we can hear an echo. Yeah. So if we are able to keep ourselves grounded, if we are able to respond with love, forgiveness, compassion, and light, which are the core teachings of Dr. and Master Sha, then we probably are responding from a healthy place. And our interactions with family members, friends, colleagues, strangers will be highly productive, meaning they'll get what they wanted, you'll have what you wanted, there'll be mutual respect and support, everyone will feel safe. But if for any reason you don't feel safe, you can't keep your heart calm, you feel threatened in any way, you may go into one of the four responses. So the four responses, I'm going to mention them briefly, and then I'm going to ask Dr. Giard to explain them to you. Fight, flight, freeze. Many people know these. Many of us learned about them as we've had veterans come back from war and from doing their service, and then they're caught in the fight, flight, freeze response. There's attachment cry. The third one is please and appease. And then the fourth is collapse and submit. So all of those have very distinct responses. They come from a deep place of trauma. This is what I've learned from Dr. Giard. And she'll explain this to us in a minute, yeah? Our goal with the Emotional Intelligence Workshop is to present to you the psychological framework so that you can understand, are you responding from one of these four? Are you responding from fright? Are you responding from fight? So I study with Dr. and Master Sha, and Dr. and Master Sha would call that fighting nature. You have fighting nature. So everything becomes a battle, a test of wills. Flight, you just want to run as fast as you can, right? And freeze, I learned the Midwest when I was growing up in Chicago, we would say, you look like a deer in the headlights. And that's just, you're just frozen in that moment, frozen in place, yeah? Are you responding from that trauma that's caused that response? And then we want to share with you both techniques that Dr. Giard will teach you, but also the techniques of Dr. and Master Sha. Because what we've learned is that when you combine them, when you combine modalities, Dr. Giard combines psychotherapy with the power of the Tao calligraphy field in her private practice. So when you bring these together, a few things happen. One, you can transform the pain that you're in very quickly. So you don't drown in fear. You're not consumed by anger, or you're not lost in, the attachment cry, help me, help me, help me, and nobody's helping you. That has to be very painful, right? It's a very painful place to be. Or the last one, which is collapse and submit, where you just completely give up and just do whatever someone's asking you to do. Those are painful places to live. So we're going to invite Dr. Giard on to explain each of these. And we're also going to share with you a testimonial of what happened for one of our clients very recently when we did another introductory event. And the response she had to the Tao calligraphy healing field, because that's really where the magic happens, is in the Tao calligraphy healing field. So let me say just a few things about the Tao calligraphy healing field, and then I'll bring Dr. Giard on. So the Tao Calligraphy Healing Field was created by Dr. and Master Sha. Dr. and Master Sha is a New York Times bestselling author. He's an extraordinary humanitarian. I've known Master Sha for over 20 years, and the only thing that motivates him every single day is a deep desire to stop the suffering of humanity. And he has been actively looking for techniques and for the power that would help him to help as much of humanity as possible to transform the pain in their heart. And that's what the field does. The field is calligraphy, like the one behind me, that was written with a technique called Ibiza one-stroke writing. But when he writes, Master Sha is a source channel, connects with the source, transmits source frequency and vibration onto the calligraphy. Then when you and I connect with that calligraphy, that frequency comes in and instantly begins to transform what we call negative messages, what Dr. Giard calls trauma. And this can happen very, very quickly, not months and years, probably weeks and months. And that's what she's going to talk about when she joins us. So this weekend, we want to give you the psychological framework so you can see, am I responding from a healthy place where there's mutual love, support, respect, there's mutually beneficial outcomes? Or is it from a place of fear, from a place of anger, submission, total surrender, just total giving up? Are you able to speak up for yourself, to actively negotiate in whatever is being discussed? And if not, how can you get there? How can you learn? First, when you're in the moment, and then on an ongoing basis, how can you learn to transform what was created in pain and trauma and help to transform it, release it, so you can live your true self, your true purpose? This is something that's unique, really, to Dr. Monique. And her clients are experiencing, not only are they thriving in the areas of their life where they wanted transformation, but their whole lives often transform as they begin to live their lives on purpose. So it is my great honor that we have Dr. Monique Giard with us. She is extremely well regarded in British Columbia. She worked actively on the suicide task force and was seen really as one of its greatest champions. She is highly regarded as one who works with clients who have very complex cases. I remember hearing one of the case studies that she presented where a client had something like 15 caregivers, different kinds of modalities. Still, they could not help her. The client was not able to get out of the condition she was in. But working with Dr. Giard, she was able to do that and is actually thriving, is one of the people whose lives is now just unbelievable success, yeah? So she has extraordinary credentials. Her life's work of counseling came about as a result of personal tragedy, lost a family member to suicide. And she made a commitment that she would help people save their lives, one life at a time. So with that, I invite Dr. Giard to join us. Welcome, Dr. Giard. Thank you for being with us. I am so grateful and delighted that you're going to be with us this weekend. Can you, once more, for those that are joining us for the first time, can you share with everybody why, what are these for? Just give 2 or 3 sentences to describe each one of the 4 different unhealthy patterns, and then we'll talk a little bit more about one of those, and maybe you can share a couple of case studies. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Ximena, for inviting me today. And so, yes, trauma-based responses like fight, flight, freeze. And as you have explained, the fight is the person that as a child probably could not fight back because it was not safe. And so at the first occasion, and I have clients that come to me with so much tension in the body, and any trigger, they want to explode because they actually have an opportunity now to speak up, but it comes out too much with too much tension. And that's the fight. The flight is still when people are not agreeing with what's happening around, but they still haven't found their voice. They still haven't found a way to speak up in a centered way. So they would rather leave. I'm out of here. And they don't want to engage in any kind of negotiation. And the freeze is the person that still don't know what to do, is still wondering, trying to understand. And often in this category, the fight, flight, freeze, we have other characters and personalities that are developed: the justifier, the defiant, an analyst, the one that wants to solve everyone's problems. And so this fight, flight, freeze is not healthy because you can lose yourself in that process and you're not keeping yourself in alignment with who you truly are. The second one is attachment cry. It's a person that has been really disturbed by inconsistent love or inconsistent attachment or attention. Sometimes the attention, the connection with the significant parent was very loving, very soothing. At other times, it was met with punishment or judgment, or it was not soothing at all. And for a child needs to understand in a loving way what is expected, not in a punishing, violent way. And so the person that has not had a soothing, consistent, loving, and caring, and let's say it's probably most of us, because parents don't learn in the school books how to be a parent. They learn on the job. But people that have deep, deep wounds, unsoothed, unmet basic needs for love, and these are those who have experienced real severe neglect, emotional, physical and spiritual neglect. They are searching everywhere to find this loving presence. And oftentimes people are on a spiritual quest to find that loving spiritual presence. And so the third one is please and appease. And this is the pleaser, that the person would do anything to avoid conflict, anything to avoid separation or disconnection. And again, this is not healthy because you may want to play the pleaser, but you don't get to receive what you need. You're always giving, giving, giving what the other person needs, and your own fulfilling needs are not met. And again, it's very confusing because the person thinks, I'm doing a good thing, I'm a servant. I'm doing everything for the other person. Yeah, but that may take you away from your own track of fulfilling your own journey and your own purpose. And people come to me sometimes, well, but I'm such a good person. How come I don't get more love? Because the person is taking, taking, taking. And that's the dynamic in your relationship that needs to change. And the last one is collapse, submit. And oftentimes people are in multiple places. Why? Because the collapse, submit is when you are in a frozen state and you have disconnected so much from yourself that it's hard to find who you really are. And then the submitting part is, I give up. I give up. I'm just going to do what I'm asked to do. And then the person is completely disconnected, disempowered. And I believe that's where my sister was. She had lost herself, and she had lost contact with herself and couldn't find herself anymore, and had given up on finding her true self. But we are lucky, we have Master Sha, and we have so many techniques. We have so many practices to ground ourselves, to connect within, to do the practices that we are given, to connect not only with our true self, but the truth. The truth is love, forgiveness, compassion, and light. And when we can connect through wonderful practices, and when we receive Tao Hands blessing, Tao source power in the calligraphy field, in the Tao calligraphy healing field, people start to change. And that's what I have seen with my clients. When I offer them, and they recognize, yes, but I don't know how to do this. I know I'm a pleaser. I know I get into a disconnected place. I know I dissociate, but I don't know how to get out of this. And then I say, recognize it, feel it, be in it, receive the blessing. And then they receive a blessing. And then things start to change. And they start tracing and do the practices. And then they get the courage to speak the truth. And something inside is reborn. It's like a reborn. It's the true self. And there's so much joy when that happens. And people want to continue, and they want to continue to speak their truth. And then they start being in alignment with their soul purpose. And that brings so much joy. That means brings so much success, because when they solve that one particular relationship, the most significant relationship, they can start healing other relationships all around. So thank you so much, Ximena, for giving me the opportunity to explain those 4 trauma-based responses and how to transform them.
Wow. So this is why we're doing this workshop, because Dr. Monique, can you feel, first of all, can you feel her heart? Can you feel her love? Yeah. How much she wants to help everybody to, transform. And can you also feel I don't know how to say this, but I was listening to you and thinking, I was remembering, I saw several case studies because we were doing another project, and I was recalling different case studies that you did. And in each one of those, you talked about how every one of those people reconnected with a renewed desire to live. Because what you said to me recently is, many times when people move on this through these 4 different responses, they may end up in the collapse submit, which is sort of a step before the suicide, right?
Yes.
That's why you mentioned your sister. And as I was listening to you, I was just astonished, because I remembered the cases where people, like the woman with the brain injury, sitting at home, not able to even turn on the lights, can't do a lot, for them to then connect with their life's purpose, right?
Yes.
Not only to go from I'm unhappy to I'm living my life's purpose. That's a huge, huge, huge transformation. And that's the vision, and that's the outcome. That's the outcome that you're holding for every single person. And that's what I just got in listening to you, is that is to you, that's success. Success isn't let's just transform, fight, flight, freeze. Success is that the person is actually, that pattern is transformed, that response is transformed. But the greater success is what you're calling, that they connect with their true self, and they're living their purpose. So Dr. Dr. Giard, can you give us, we only have a few minutes, so let's just talk about one, if you could share one case study with us. And then we also have a testimonial from someone last week that we want to share. How very quickly this combination of the psychotherapy, psychology framework with the Tao calligraphy field can accelerate the transformation.
Yes, so I'd like to talk about one particular case, a client really, really discouraged in relationship, unable to transform the violence, the verbal violence from the partner. And the please and appease was so strong. And my client thinking, but I'm doing the right thing. I'm helping. I'm doing everything I can. But the despair was that the person felt guilty for engaging in those fight-flight moment. There was the pleaser, but there were too many fights, too many conflicts in the relationship. And then that's when I discovered that there's a cycle that had been established in the relationship called the rage, shame, and guilt. And the person was trapped in the cycle, wanting, like thinking, I'm a pleaser, I'm going to do everything. It had taken on that identity at a young age, at the time of trauma. But what was activated in the relationship was raging to be heard, then the shame of, oh my God, who have I become? And the guilt that I cannot leave this person. We are in trouble. I've got to rescue her. I've got to do something. Again, the pleaser was back in full action. So when I started offering Tao Hands blessing, the life force, the soul power came through. And then it started to shake at a very deep level, to shake those mindsets, those taken on personalities and responses. And the person started tracing Daquan Shu, the calligraphy Daquan Shu. So at the soul level, something started to transform very deep. At the soul level, a negative message that had been taken on way, 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 way back. And the person kept tracing. We kept working on the Tao hands to maintain the light between sessions, to maintain the truth, the connection with the true self. And today, this person is able to speak up. And they are both now in therapy, so they can dismantle that fight-flight response with the partner, the conflict, stop it, do the practice, connect with the treasures, connect with the calligraphy, take a deep breath, and things are changing. So this is my most powerful, because it's very hard for a person caught in the please and appease, thinking I'm doing the right thing. And then they're caught again in another part, fight, flight. And then they're caught in another cycle, rage, shame, guilt. So all this is, we're able to dismantle that with the field, in the field. And that's why I like those practices at the center. And people can join all practices to maintain the light, not go back, do not go back. Maintain the light.
Can I ask you a question as I was listening to you? So your client, the one that you just shared about the please, appease, fight, flight, and then rage, shame, something. Rage, shame, something. I don't remember the third one. So is your expectation that that as the client continues, that they will in fact be able to let go of all of this, let go of these responses that are at the moment probably involuntary. There's no choice, right? You're just responding from rage, or you're responding from the pleaser mentality, right? And then once they're able to do that, then they're going to be able to, one, present themselves differently in all relationships. But then they have, because I want you to talk a little bit more about connecting with the true self. Why is it that they have to let go of the trauma before they can connect with the true self? Because so many people, now everyone's asking, what is my calling? How do I make my mark in the world? There's a lot of questions about what is my purpose? We do soul communication. A lot of people want to know, what is my soul's purpose? We do the reading, what is the soul's purpose? But then there's still an inability to take action and fulfill it. So what I'm really wondering then is it that they're not able to take action because they're caught in the trauma? Is that what stops them? And then can you talk about that? Yeah.
Yes. So if people do not do their own introspection with the emotional response, that's where it starts. And people need to know how they're responding. And people sometimes, many master teachers will highlight that. Are you aware that you're responding? That's why we do soul communication. That's why people take training to be able to identify, how do I express anger? How do you express anger? People need to know how they feel. That's where it starts. And to really be honest with that. And yes, yin or yang anger is anger. And people express anger in so many ways. We need to be more intelligent about the way we respond. And that's where it starts. To be honest about that. To be honest about the intensity that people carry around them. And to bring them, to help them be aware of their response. Are you aware that this is what's happening? So collectively, and when we are in a group together, we can do that. When we are in the Tao Chang, we can do that. And we can highlight and help people recognize how they respond. Then the memory, in the field, memories will come. Often people in a session, when I do the Tao blessing, people had a vision. Yes, it is the source. And then we go deeper. What is the negative message that you took on at the time? In the field with a blessing, it's a safe place. And that's when trauma can come up because it's safe. That's when images and memories can come up because it's safe. Then they can release it with the practice. That's when we do the practice. People become emotionally intelligent, number one. Number two, they have a memory in a safe place. And then we, with the treasures, with the practice, with the sound that Master Sha teaches, we can go everywhere in the body where the memory is held. And then it dissolves. It dissolves with the practices. It is so brilliant. I have shivers all over when I speak about this. It is so brilliant, the teachings of Master Sha, to become more intelligent, emotionally intelligent, to access memories and to dissolve them.
So you know what? You just reminded me. Let me read this testimonial, right? So you just reminded me of what occurred. Last Tuesday, we did a introductory event. It was on live stream, not on Facebook. And in that, so on live stream, we have because it's a private live stream, we had a little bit more flexibility. We also had more time. We had an hour and a half. And so one of our clients was chosen as a demo, and we basically asked anybody who has who can recognize in themselves, because we're not going to diagnose you here, but if anybody could recognize for yourselves, do you have fight, flight, or freeze response? That's all they had to put into the chat. And then we traced the calligraphy. There's a calligraphy book that has the calligraphies like the one behind me. Monique has one of those books. She traced for 2 minutes. So this is what Mina's experience was, right? So her flight, she said that her response was flight, was transformed with a 2-minute blessing. So she said, I received a blessing for flight. The moment Ximena said you can put your request in the chat, I had a memory from childhood, and I immediately put in a flight, and I was chosen as a demo. During the blessing, I could feel so much movement in my body, lower abdomen, lungs, and back. And she was 3 days later, it was Friday. She said, it's Friday now. A lot is still happening. I have a sense of peace in my body. I am more grounded. I am more alert. I am in the here and now a lot. And I am not getting disturbed. I am not getting disturbed a lot in this moment. Today, there was a thought of something I had gone through in my life. That one thought brought so much emotion in my body. And then I could understand it is all stored in our mind also. And that helped me to realize the memory is still there, but the sharpness of the event that took place in my youth is gone. And the emotion connected to it is less now. It was a huge blessing. That's exactly what you just said, right?
Yes.
That the trauma, the memory. So we call it in Master Sha's, in the Tao Calligraphy Healing Field, we talk about it as in Tao Science. We talk about it as negative messages. So everyone has moments when you may not have a pleasant thought. You may have an unpleasant thought. You might say an unpleasant word. You might do something unpleasant. You're stressed. You're frustrated. You toss something aside. You say something not so pleasant. All of those are negative messages. We're putting them out into the universe, but they're also recorded, and we carry that record in our bodies. So the memories of all of our service, it's recorded. So what Mina is saying is that incident that happened to her, right? That it was not just in one part of the body, it was all over. Want to say a little bit more about that?
It's exactly what happens when we offer a blessing, and when my clients are receiving the light, something shifts, and they're no longer in that frozen state, or the body is releasing memories in deep in the body from what the child may have seen, heard, or the way the child may have been touched. Something deep is being transformed. And that's the power of Tao. That's the power of Tao source healing. And this is such a beautiful testimonial, because it explains, Mina explained what my clients are experiencing and what people can experience this weekend when they join for the workshop. This is what they can experience. It will be a very transformative weekend, and I can't wait to share more and more. And people can identify, and with the story, sometimes it helps to identify and say, oh, wow, this is what happened, and I have an opportunity now to transform that, and that's why it's important to connect. And even tomorrow night for the introduction at 6:00, learn more, educate yourself, because this knowledge has been kept between psychologists and counselors, but it's time that you all learn about this. It's knowledge that you all deserve to access.
Beautiful. Okay, so thank you, Dr. Monique Giard. And I want to invite everybody, as Dr. Monique just did, join us tomorrow night, Wednesday, May 19th, 6 p.m. Pacific time. We will be doing an hour-and-a-half introduction in on the live stream. So we have more time, and it's also closed, so we have an opportunity to probably do another demo. So if you would like to be considered for a demo, register. You must register. Join us. Why do you need to register? Because we will follow up with you. We want to make sure how you're doing, find out how you're feeling. Then we'll do another Facebook Live on Thursday at 6 p.m. here on Master Sha Dao Center's Facebook page. And the workshop is 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Saturday, May 22nd, and Sunday, May 23rd. So we will do our very best. Monique and I will do our very best to create a very safe environment for you. I want to mention that that Mina's transformation of the flight response, it was a 2-minute Tao calligraphy tracing blessing. So her response is not that unusual. She is, of course, one of our clients, and she does practice every day. So you get to see the benefit. Monique mentioned it earlier. After you work with her, you may choose to work with her privately, but after the workshop, we want you to continue to do practices. The more you practice, the more you will clear, the faster these kinds of transformations can occur for you. You don't have to spend months, years, right? I remember you sharing that your clients are not spending years and years. Instead, the transformation is taking place months and weeks. There's a beautiful video of a young girl who had social anxiety, right? 6 sessions, 6 weeks, completely transformed. So that's the power of the field. We'll talk more about it and give you more of an experience tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Please register. Join us on live stream. Monique, Cynthia Hamilton, Sarah Baker, Mark Saparlo, myself, and I'm working on getting a special guest to join us, but I don't know if it's going to happen. At any rate, we will do our best to hold you lovingly, tenderly, make sure that you feel as safe and as loved as possible, so you can really experience the kind of transformation that can occur in a field of Tao calligraphy. Dr. Giard, it's been my great honor to be with you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Everybody post on the chat. Let's see, are there any comments? Actually, let's see if there's any comments.
I think we'll have to read the comments another time.
Okay, all right. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.